All right, so this year we're really taking a deep dive into Advent, but this time we're going to be looking at it from a Hebrew Israelite perspective.
Oh, very
And
interesting.
honestly, it's such a nice break from all the craziness that's going on out there.
Yeah.
Like everywhere you turn,
Yeah.
it's all about those Black Friday deals,
Oh, yeah.
influencers doing something crazy again, and people arguing over what to call the Feast of Lights this year. I don't know about you, but it makes me want to just shut off my phone and like hide.
Yeah, totally. I
Uh,
get that. It's a lot to handle sometimes.
It really is. It's like sensory overload.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this deep dive is going to be extra refreshing.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring this online prayer guide from prayer.com,
Okay.
specifically the prayer for December 21st.
Got it.
And it all starts with this verse from 2 Timothy 3:1-5.
Okay.
And you know what? It's kind of scary how accurate this feels right now.
Really?
I'm going to read it to you. But know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money boasters, proud blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Oh my gosh. It just keeps going. Unloving, unforgiving slanderers, without self-control, brutal despisers of good traders, reckless, conceited lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of wow. I mean, come on. Tell me that doesn't sound like your average day scrolling through social media.
It's true. It really does feel like that verse was like ripped from today's headlines. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Even
man.
though it was written centuries ago.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting here is how this passage connects to the whole Hebrew Israelite idea of the last days.
Yeah. And it doesn't just talk about like some future event. It actually says, know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come. Like they're already happening.
Right.
So I'm really curious, from a Hebrew Israelite perspective, what does that actually mean? Because if we're already living in these quote unquote last days, I feel like that kind of changes how we think about the whole Advent season.
It definitely does. From a Hebrew Israelite perspective, the last days aren't just some far-off event. It's like, it's a state of being. It's a condition of the world that's already happening, you know?
Interesting.
And it's characterized by this turning away from Christ, this decline in morality, an increase in lawlessness, and all those social ills we were just talking about. And let's be real, those signs are everywhere these days.
Yeah. I mean, just look at what's trending online right now.
Seriously.
We've got climate change, anxieties, political divides deeper than ever, and people canceling each other left and right.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
It is. It can feel really overwhelming.
Right.
But the good news is, this prayer guide doesn't just leave us hanging in this sense of doom and gloom. It goes on to offer this message of hope from Joel 2:28.
Okay.
It says, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my how on all flesh.
Yeah.
Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions."
Wow. So we've got this picture of the last days being like our current reality. But then we have this verse about the kekwe being poured out on everyone. So how do those two ideas fit together?
It is a beautiful contrast. You're right. While the whole last days thing might seem kind of bleak, the outpouring of the Quran represents this source of strength and guidance in the middle of all the chaos.
No?
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, Krail is still there. You know,
Yeah.
he's still working, still offering us a way to navigate all these challenges. It's about tapping into that power within us, that connection to the divine that lets us rise above all the negativity and make choices that are aligned with Krail will.
I like that. Like that saying, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. You know, even in the middle of all this craziness, there's still a way to connect to something bigger than ourselves, to find that inner peace and guidance.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about realizing that even though we might be in the last days, we're not helpless. We have we've got class guidance,
Yeah.
and we have the ability to choose how we deal with all the challenges around us.
I love how you put that. It's not about ignoring the problems. It's about remembering we have what we need to handle them. But I have to admit, sometimes it feels like all that gets buried under, just everything. Like, how do you even stay connected to that inner peace when your phone's blowing up? Everyone's fighting about the latest political stuff, and you haven't even started your Feast of Dedication shopping.
I hear ya. It's a struggle for sure. And I think we all face it in different ways. The key is remembering that walking in the Spirit isn't just some passive thing.
Yeah.
It's an active choice we're making every day, even every moment.
So it's not just about like knowing the right things or believing the right things. It's about actually putting those beliefs into action, especially when it's tough.
You got it. And for Hebrew Israelites, that often means choosing to live by the laws and commandments of worthwhile, even when they go against what everyone else is doing.
Interesting.
It's about setting ourselves apart, not in a way that's about judging or separating ourselves,
Right.
but in a way that lets us be that light in the darkness, a source of hope in these crazy times.
Okay, I see how that connects back to the whole last days being reality thing. It's like we're supposed to be the ones carrying the light, showing that spirit of hope and strength, even when everything around us feels like it's falling apart. But what does that actually look like day to day? I mean, it's easy to say walk in the spirit, but how do we do that in real life?
That's where it gets really exciting,
Yeah.
because it's not about some big grand gestures or becoming some kind of superhuman.
Right.
It's about those small everyday choices we make. It's about starting the day with prayer, connecting with God, and setting our intentions to walk in the Spirit. It's being careful about what we take in, not just food, but also the information and media we consume. And it's choosing to focus on the positive, seeing the good in others even when they don't see it in themselves.
So it's like making those little spaces of peace and purpose throughout the day,
Yeah.
even when things are hectic.
Yes, exactly. And it's about choosing to react with love and compassion instead of getting sucked into all the drama and negativity.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this prayer from prairie.com fits in so perfectly. It says, Lord, I want to thank you for the strength you have given me to stand strong in these last days. I believe you always be there to guide and to hold me up in your hands so that I don't fall into temptation. I pray, Lord, that you give me the power to keep going. Pour your spirit on me and let I walk in your spirit and not in flesh. Amen.
Wow.
It's simple, but it's so powerful in what it's saying.
I know, right?
It's about recognizing the challenges, asking for help, and choosing to walk in the Spirit even when it's hard.
Yeah, I really feel that. It's like a reminder that we're not in this alone. We've got slow strength, we've got the guidance of your strength, and we have each other to lean on.
Absolutely. And as we're getting closer to the Feast of Dedication, this message of hope and renewal becomes even more important.
Well, that's so true. I'm glad you mentioned the Feast of Dedication. It's so easy to get caught up in all the commercial stuff,
Yeah.
the gifts, the decorations. But from a Hebrew Israelite view, what does it actually represent?
It's a time to remember, to rededicate ourselves to Allah and his laws.
Okay.
It celebrates the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, back when the light of the menorah was lit again after all those years of darkness. And that's what the Feast of Dedication is really about, remembering the victory of light over darkness, of hope winning over despair. It's about relighting that inner light within each of us, that connection to Layla that leads us through even the toughest times.
It's like this symbolic reminder that even when things seem dark, even when the world feels lost, that spark of hope, that light of Christ's presence is always there, waiting to be reignited.
You got it. And that rekindling comes from the choices we make, from our commitment to walking in the Spirit, and from living in a way that reflects love and teachings.
I'm really feeling this connection between the last days, the outpouring of and what the Feast of Dedication symbolizes. It's like they're all pointing to the same truth, that even when things are hard and uncertain, there's always a reason for hope, a reason to keep our faith, and a reason to keep choosing the path of light.
You said that beautifully. And that's what's so powerful about this Hebrew Israelite way of looking at Advent. It's not about pretending the world's problems don't exist. It's about giving us the power to rise above them, to be those beacons of hope and strength, and to live in a way that honors Roa and brings light into all the darkness.
So we've talked about the big picture, the idea of the last days and the power of walking in the Spirit. But for those of us who are still trying to figure out how to get through our holiday to-do list, and not get dragged into all the online arguments, what are some real ways to put these ideas into action? I mean, how do we walk in the Spirit when we're surrounded by so much noise and distraction?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's what this whole deep dive is really about. It's not just about understanding these concepts in our heads. It's about living them out in our everyday lives. So let's get into some practical tips and things we can do that can help you connect with the spirit of Advent and build that inner strength and resilience, even with all the holiday craziness.
Because let's face it, it's one thing to talk about these ideas, but it's a whole other thing to actually live them out when you're dealing with real-life problems and temptations.
Absolutely. So let's get practical and explore how you can bring these powerful ideas into your daily experiences. Stay tuned, because in our final part, we'll unpack some specific strategies and practices that can help you navigate the season with intention, grace, and a deep connection to Klesmi.
All right, so let's talk practical tips. I'm thinking about, like, when I'm on social media and it's like Everyone's trying to outdo each other with the perfect feast of dedication decorations,
Hmm?
or who's going on the fanciest vacation.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
How do we not get swept up in all of that
Yeah.
and stay focused on what really matters?
It's tough, for sure. I think one of the most powerful things you can do is start your day intentionally.
Hmm.
Instead of grabbing your phone first thing when you wake up, take a few minutes to connect with Bray through prayer or meditation.
You know what? I've actually been trying to do that more lately,
Mhm.
and I have to say, it really makes a difference. Even just 5 minutes of quiet time before the day goes crazy helps me feel more grounded, you know?
It doesn't have to be anything fancy, no special cushions or incense or anything. Just find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and focus on your breath.
Right.
Maybe think about a verse from scripture that you love, or
Mhm.
just be thankful for a new day.
Yeah, it's like making a little peaceful bubble before you go out into the world.
Exactly. And you can keep that feeling with you all day long by doing little things that help you stay connected to,
But what?
well, maybe it's listening to uplifting music while you're driving to work, or taking a minute to enjoy nature during your lunch break, or even just saying a quick silent prayer before you eat.
I like those ideas. They're simple, but powerful.
Right. And I think it's also important to be mindful of who you're spending time with, both online and offline.
Yeah, for sure.
Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who help you grow, and who support your journey with media.
Yeah.
And just as important, be aware of the voices you're letting into your head through social media and other media.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's so easy to start comparing yourself to everyone else.
Right. Or feeling like you're not good enough when you're constantly seeing these perfect pictures and stories.
Yeah, totally.
So how do we deal with that?
Be picky about what you let in.
Mm,
Maybe that means unfollowing accounts that make you feel bad or cutting back on your social media time.
right. Or maybe even being more intentional about finding content that actually inspires you. Exactly. Content that lines up with your values. And that helps you connect with your factors. Remember, you have the power to choose what you let into your mind and heart.
That's a good reminder.
You don't have to just passively take in whatever's thrown at you.
I love that. We have the power to choose.
We do. And as we get closer to the Feast of Dedication, remember that image of light overcoming darkness?
Mm.
We can choose to focus on the light to celebrate the miracle of Chris's birth and to let that light shine through us in how we treat others.
It's like a reminder that even with all the chaos and commercialism, the real meaning of the Feast of Dedication is about hope renewal in the presence of Kateranic.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this question. How will you create your own sanctuary this Feast of Dedication season?
Ooh, I like that.
How will you connect with what this time of year is really about in a way that feels true and meaningful to you?
Because at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
about finding what speaks to your soul and what helps you experience the real meaning of this season, the anticipation of Christ's arrival, the celebration of light and hope, and growing closer to parishioners.
Beautifully said. May this season be a time of renewal joy and deep inner peace for you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.